Hi, I'm Angela Wolf. I'm a fashion designer and online instructor. And today we're going to go back to the 30s, where they had beautiful embroidered gowns. Sometimes it would be the same image all over the place. Sometimes it would be large images. But what I'm going to show you today is how to just use, it could be any embroidery machine. I'm going to use a very small hoop. So don't feel you have to have something special for this. And I want to show you some ideas. Here I have, this is what we're going to do today. This is silk dupioni, which I absolutely love this fabric. And I just chose the same image over and over. Now I did this in contrasting colors just so you could see it, but this could be in the same color. It could be all over. You know, just imagine making a jacket out of this even, but gowns are just fabulous in this. In the bridal industry, quite often you'll see an ivory dress with the same image embroidered in ivory. So you'll have a lot of fun with this. But let's talk about the fabrics. This is just a slinky satin. Now here I embroidered, and this is tearaway stabilizer. It's pretty stiff for this design, and I chose just to show you this because if I did designs all over this fabric, the fabric would drape, but it would stand out every time you had an embroidered design. So this won't work for this fabric. You can still embroider on it, but you wouldn't want to use tearaway. They also have water soluble. This is a water soluble that doesn't have a sticky back. And when I hoop this, I would normally just grab the hoop this, and then spray it with a sticky back, and then you could put the fabric on that. That's one idea. And then this tears away, and then as soon as you spray it with a little bit of water, it disappears. There's only one issue with that. Are you going to wash this fabric? Would you wash silk dupioni? Well, I do sometimes, but it loses its hand. So if you're going to have a beautiful dress, you're probably not going to throw it in the washing machine. So again, you probably wouldn't want to use water soluble. And here's one more. This is satin, a poly satin, and this is a little bit stiffer. So you could definitely use the same technique on this. Okay? So here's my dupioni. And I want to mark my design, and I just use chalk. So if I want to use the same design, grab a ruler, just so you can kind of keep the base. And I'm just going to say, now this is not a very straight piece of fabric, but let's just say I want one here. And you can measure, or you can just do it visually. I'm going to do just a little crosshairs so I can see where to line this up. Oh, maybe you want one here. How do you know? Well, one thing to do is to embroider the design. What I did before I did this whole piece is I embroidered one of these. And then I just cut it out and used that and placed it around so I could see. What I did is I traced it on a piece of paper and then laid all the paper out and then marked where I wanted my design. And do it all over your fabric. Maybe you're doing yards of this, maybe you're just embellishing the bottom of a skirt. So here I have this, there's nothing else on this. Here is my very small hoop. And I'm just gonna let's just pick this one in the corner here. On the hoop you have these two lines here, these are cross lines, to be able to line up your design. That's why I did the cross. They also have a little piece of plastic here that you can put on here. Okay, see how sticky this is? I've already scored this and pulled it back so I could put my design there, but you can hear it, it's sticky. Why wouldn't I just put this in the hoop? If I put this or satin or any of these other fabrics and hoop it, you're gonna end up with little lines on your fabric. It's not a good idea, not on this fine fabric. So I'm just gonna stick this in place. It doesn't have to be perfect because you can always move your design around a little bit. There we go, that looks pretty good. See what this does? It kind of shows my lines underneath. It's still a little bit off, but it's good. So I'm just gonna squish that down into place. And let's go to the machine and pick out a very simple design. If you're gonna be using a hoop this small, you'll have to go through your designs and find one that will fit in the hoop or download one from a website, or maybe you could buy a disc. But I'm just gonna find a design that will fit into this small hoop. So just kind of scan your designs. See if you can find something. It'll tell you what size it is, so make sure that it'll fit into the hoop. You can always make it a little bit smaller, but sometimes it still won't go into that little itty bitty hoop. So this looks pretty good. Okay, and I'm ready to embroider. And I'm just gonna hit go. And I'm just gonna let it just go just a little bit. So we let this embroider. And I'm gonna let that keep going for just a minute. And I wanna show you something else. here I have just little pieces of stabilizer cut out. This is that sticky back tearaway that I was telling you about. This is just a little tip. Can you imagine how much it would cost to rehoop every single one of these designs on this fabric? If I had to use the entire piece, it would take a lot. So all I do is I usually leave a bunch of these cut out. And I'm going to stop our design here in just a second and show you a very easy way to just keep rolling on this fabric. It looks like that's enough. I'm just going to stop it. Now, obviously, you would let the design finish. Okay, let's pull this out. So you can see how the design has started. It looks like it's perfectly centered. And if I went and wanted to do all of these, instead of having to rip out and rehoop everything, what I usually do is be very careful. This is fragile fabric. This is Dupioni, but it would be fragile if you were using satin. And just very carefully pull this back. So you can see from the wrong side what I'm doing. Now, if this was a finished flower, I would have the design all the way around. It would be a little bit easier to tear away because I have these few extra little guys down here. So just be very gingerly while you do this. I'm just going to keep pulling back. There you go. Okay, so this is the one piece. Now, before I show you what to do with this, here I have these little pieces. So if the flower was that big or however big it is, just cut pieces large enough for this. It's still sticky. So if you're doing yards and yards of fabric, you might have to rehoop a couple of times, but really you don't, because there's a spray that you can put on here that makes it sticky again. So I just take the backing off, and it's almost like just little patchwork. I would lay this on top or below. It doesn't matter which one you do. I usually do it on top because if you have a bunch of flyaways on this and then you start embroidering, it could cause problems. So there, I'm all ready to go again. And then all I would do is line up my next piece, you know, the best that I could. And I'm just going to put it on here and pull it away so you can see what happens. So when I do that, you can kind of see the impression of that extra piece of tearaway. Can you see that? I'll just kind of line the chalk on it. That's the little patchwork. It's not going to matter because after you embroider, guess what's going to happen? You're going to pull this away, and all of that's going to go away anyways. So just keep patching it. Then you have one good piece of backing here and keep patching it. So what do you do with this fabric then? It didn't wrinkle too bad, but you can see there's a little wrinkling around here. A couple things to keep in mind. Use a brand new needle when you're embroidering, especially on Dupioni or these satins. On the satin, I wanted to pull this out. See this right here? And there's also one on this side. What is that from? It's from the needle piercing the fabric and pulling little threads out of here. That's a no-no. So use a brand new needle. And if you're using really thin fabric, you might want to use even a smaller needle, maybe a size 11 or even a size 10. Just don't use the needle threader if you're using that. So here we go. I want to take this fabric. Now, use a press cloth, but I'm not going to use that here because you need to see what I'm doing. What I usually do is use a little bit of steam. See, you can really see those little wrinkles right now. I just want to give this a little steam and kind of stretch your fabric out as you're doing it. Some of these designs, now this is a real compact design compared to this one. This is compact in here, and this one is right through here. So you just want to keep stretching it a little bit and pressing it until it goes back to its original shape. Test it first, because if you do a design and you end up with a bunch of wrinkles all over it, you're not going to want to do that. You're not going to want to use it. And if you're having a problem with the sticky back causing problems, then just use regular tearaway and just spray it so then you can put your fabric in place. So these are some tips for embroidering fine fabrics for evening wear or special occasion.